Hey, good morning. How y'all doing? It is Well Red Beard. Let's talk about a book. We are here for a book review, and today we're going to talk about Sinister Mix by Brian Bowyer. This is a short story collection, 14 stories. All the shorts on shorts are up, so if you're interested in those, you can go and watch them. I'll be creating a little playlist that has all the shorts on shorts and this review. So, man, I really like this book a lot. I think I might have loved this book for what it was at the time. Oh my God, I'm gonna give it 5 stars. I'm gonna give this book 5 stars. So clearly, look, I thought about that, right? Clearly, there was a little bit of hesitation there. This is a different kind of 5 stars. It is very, very extreme stuff. Very extreme. But if you've been paying attention to what I'm doing, I was reading like 3 short story collections at one time. And I had an anthology that I was working in there too. And I was trying to go story from this one, story from that one, story from that. I kept reaching for the Sinister Mix. I kept reaching for the Bowyer. And you know, I was reading that Haley Piper collection that I just did. Amazing stories, but it's just a different feel. I mean, it's so extreme, it's so graphic, it's so gory. And I just kept reaching for it. And because it's so graphic and gory and extreme and everybody dies, parts of it come off as comedic, even though it's not really comedic, but you're I mean, you know, it's almost like you get lulled to sleep. And so when that machete suddenly appears coming out the front of your chest, you're like, oh shit, that's kind of funny, you know? So look, I really, really like this. And I don't really do a ton of extreme stuff, not because I've got anything against it. I just don't get a ton of it. But, you know, it's my third Bowyer read. I did Perpetual Dread, and I really liked this one too. It's another short story collection, and I gave this one 4 stars, I believe. I did Road Harvest, which is a novella. I also gave this 4 stars, I believe. So, man, I'm a fan of Bowyer's work. There's just a lot of fun here, a lot of excitement, a lot of shock and awe and gore and blood and death and a lot of death. And it's just fun. But look, if you're easily offended, I mean, because it's, you know, there are no rules here. I mean, Brian doesn't follow any rule book. There's no one that's safe. And there's really, really no heroes. I mean, you know, it ends bad. If there is a hero, it's going to end bad for them too. And you just kind of learn that going in. I mean, that's not really a spoiler. So, when I read Perpetual Dread, I said that that what I liked about Bowyer's style was the extreme nature of the stories and the no frills prose. And I didn't really think much about that no frills prose. But it, you know, I was recently watching, I caught a bit of the Paper Cuts interview with Brian with, you know, Brad Proctor and Jay Maddox. And he was talking about Pollock and how, you know, that was kind of like his inspiration to kind of rip it down and really get rid of all the excess. You know, I'm just kind of, you know, summarizing what I caught there. But I didn't really put that together. I hadn't put that together that, you know, it was like, you know, the style was heavily, you know, Pollock inspired. So if you're a fan of that stuff, then this is right up your alley. I mean, look, again, I don't read a lot of extreme stuff, so I don't have a lot of stuff to compare it to. But, you know, I'm going to show you, you know, this is a very extreme horror book. I mean, people talk about this as being a very extreme novel, J.F. Gonzalez Survivor, and then Pollock. And so, you know, Pollock is such a tough word. I'm not really sure that I've ever pronounced it correctly. Pollock. Anyway, but you marry these together and throw away all the extra shit. I mean, you take the most horrific parts from this, the parts that, you know, that people are picking it up because of the extreme nature of it, right? You take the best parts and you take the style and you marry them together and you throw out all the extra shit, and this is kind of what you wind up with. Another thing I really like is it's heavy on the human horror. I mean, there are a couple things in here that can't be explained away as just normal vile human behavior, but the vast majority of it is just that. It's bad people doing bad things. And so all the shorts on shorts are up. If you're interested, check them out. I'm going to tell you about my top 4 stories, and number 4 for me was The Black Yacht. And in this one, a young girl wakes up. She wants to go to the beach. Her mother's a heroin addict, and her mother, has to get a hit before they go. And she's going to take her to the beach because she's got to find some more heroin anyway. And she's on the beach. Her daughter's playing in the sand or whatnot. And a gentleman approaches, and he asks, how much for the little girl? The mom says, my daughter's not for sale, unless you got a lifetime supply of heroin. And again, he happens to have a nice quantity of heroin on hand. He said, look, it's I just want to take her out to my yacht. It's right there. You can see it for the afternoon. I'll bring her back in one piece. Boy, oh boy. It's rough. It's rough. So, violence, torture, against children. And it's really about, the version of this girl that he brings back early is what it comes down to. And this one kind of goes a monster way, kind of a monstrous thing rather than the human stuff that most of the other stories kind of deals in. But it's messed up. It's a messed up story. And then my number 3 is Yersinia Z. It is a post-apocalyptic story. The vast majority of the people have died from this pneumonia-like pandemic. And we've got a serial killer / cannibal that is scrounging through the remains. There's not a lot of survivors, man, and he's hungry, and he's got to find somebody to kill and eat. And, we follow him and then another young 19-year-old couple that are kind of, staying alive in a motorhome, and of course their paths are set on a crash course. But you don't know. I mean, again, it's a Bowyer read, so I think you kind of assume that the killer cannibal is gonna get his way, and maybe he does, but then you don't. I mean, and then you're like, wait, and everything switches up on you every single time. Like, it's weird because it's coming. You know that machete's going to appear from the front of your chest, but somehow you get lulled a bit. You get lulled to sleep just a bit, just enough to still have these things be really, really shocking. Story 2 for me is Deliverance, and this is the closest thing probably that the book has to a hero. We're following a man, and he's there's some pretty bits up front in the story about how he's let the yard go to shit because he really only kept up with that stuff for his wife and daughter. His wife and daughter have gone missing, or they've been killed. It was a car accident is what it was. They died in a car accident, but there was no remains. They couldn't find any remains really at all. So it's just kind of assumed that they're dead. And but he's let the yard go to shit, no flowers. I did all that stuff for my daughter. And he starts to get, telepathic messages, things to do. It gives him directions to head basically to Boulder, Colorado. And eventually it says, Daddy, I'm still alive. And this is the closest thing to a hero story, but it's ugly. It's ugly as hell. And but the ending, it's while our ending here is very, very, very dark and ugly and painful, it's got one of the prettiest last lines of a Bowyer story that I've read. And my number one story in this book is The Box. And in The Box, a young girl goes missing. The mother goes off to work. The husband is the father's a stay-at-home writer. He gets up to it, writing, focusing on that, and the kid disappears. And And mom comes home and then they can't find her, and she's kind of freaking out. And that night she's got to go for a drive to clear her head. She goes out the apartment door, and 3 doors down, a woman steps out and says, "Hey, I know where your kid is. I need 3 favors, and you can get your kid back." And the box, every time she has to go to complete one of these favors, she has to go open a box, and there's either a gun in there, or maybe there's a knife in there, or a poison, or it's like a tool and directions on what to do. And man, it's fucked up. It really, really is. It really, really is messed up. But so yeah, you got some of the best extreme horror that I've ever read, in my opinion. And you've got this no frills Palahniuk like prose, and it really matches and pairs well together for me. I mean, I really liked Perpetual Dread. I really liked Road Harvest, and the hits keep coming. I mean, I'm a real fan of Boyer's style. I mean, you can call it gutsy, you can call it risky, you can call it give no fucks style of writing, and for me, it's just fun. I mean, it's just fun. It takes me places that I'm not expecting to go. So, Brian Bowyer, Sinister Mix. I'm going to give it 5 stars. It's Friday. I hope you're having a fine, fine day. And that's it. This is Well Read Beard. I hope you're enjoying all your books as much as I am. If not, you're reading the wrong books.